Ukraine has long used long-range drones launched from Ukraine, which then fly into Russian airspace.
Of projectiles fired from the other's territory into the other's territory. And you rightly said that in the most recent one, it was 126 Ukrainian drones.
It began in a cramped war council room in Dnipro. Ukrainian commanders huddled over a convoy map stretching 3.4 kilometers long, 50 tanks, 70 carriers, 600 troops. The Russians were hours from fortifying, and the decision had to be made. General Mikhail Havlenko gave the order. No waiting, no retreat. We strike first. What followed was a chain of moves so unorthodox that even NATO planners admitted they didn't understand it at first. But by sunrise, the convoy was burning. What exactly happened between that war council and the smoldering wrecks left behind? That's the story we'll follow step by step. Before we move on, I would like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Under the moonlight, the Russian line stretched across the horizon like a rolling chain of steel. More than 3 kilometers of armor crawled toward its staging ground. Tanks, troop carriers, fuel trucks, all moving to settle into positions Ukrainian forces could not allow them to reach. The column wasn't hard to detect. Length like that belonged to a force intent on carving a fortified line before dawn.
In July in particular, sort of a steady uptick in the number of these back and forth volleys between Russia and Ukraine.
If it succeeded, breaking through would take weeks and cost lives. In Dnipro, a late-night war council gathered to answer one question. Should they hold back and wait for reinforcements, or strike with what was already in hand? On the table lay satellite overlays, hand-drawn maps, and intercepted radio chatter confirming the numbers. 50 tanks, 70 armored carriers, 600 infantry preparing to entrench. The Ukrainian commanders studied the clock. The convoy was hours away from digging in, and hesitation meant watching Russian bulldozers and trench units lock pieces of the front into a fortress. Waiting brought the chance of more support from Allied batteries further west. Moving now meant gambling with tools of war that looked woefully mismatched. In the room, opinions clashed open and sharp. Some saw a reckless attack leading to needless casualties. Others argued conviction, that Russia's force of armor had to be hit in motion or not at all. Even NATO officers tied into the coordination network resisted the plan. To them, drones the size of hobbycraft had no real chance against tank battalions.
What we're seeing here is an extraordinary assault that not only is it a demonstration of Ukraine's ability to innovate.
Their tone was firm. Anti-armor missiles and artillery had proven effective, not lightweight quadcopters. Yet on the ground, Ukrainian planners saw something different. Mobility gave them a chance to cut into the convoy before it could harden defenses. Still, doubt hung thick across the room until orders were finally given just under 2 hours before first light. The first move was reconnaissance. 20 unmanned aerial vehicles lifted off into the darkness. Their thermal cameras scanned in silence, beaming live feeds of the convoy. The screens showed slow, heat-lit targets, each armored silhouette marked for weakness. Fuel trucks glowed like bonfires waiting for a match. Engine blocks pulsed brighter than steel shells around them. These details were logged, uploaded to strike teams, and sequenced into attack routes.
Ukraine has long used long-range drones launched from Ukraine, which then fly into Russian airspace.
Only then did the second wave rise. The small, cheap drones carrying 12-kilogram warheads strapped beneath their frames. Each system, costing no more than $4,000, aimed to bite massively above its weight. In economic terms, just one of these swarms flown into the right spot could disable equipment valued in the millions.
He has been blamed by Russia on a Ukrainian drone attack. It was one of a series of strikes on Russian military infrastructure this weekend.
It was asymmetry put into motion, the precise opposite of matching tank for tank. Instead of bombardments flattening ground indiscriminately, every drone was steered with intent toward fragile machinery that the entire convoy depended upon. The first wave locked onto the lead vehicles. Within moments, warheads slammed into hoods and turrets, detonating engine blocks. The front of the convoy screeched to a halt in fire and choking smoke.
Strike Russia where it's not expecting it. It's also a clear indication that Russia is not invincible.
Behind it, armored carriers jammed together, unsure if they faced mines, artillery, or airborne strikes. Confusion spread faster than flames. Inside hatches, Russian units radioed questions that went unanswered. No ground presence was yet visible, yet engines burned. Panic stunted coordination. The strike's value wasn't just in the wreckage left behind, it was in the fear that spread through a convoy struck before it could fight back. Machines worth their weight in gold had been reduced to obstacles in the span of minutes, and chaos left commanders scrambling for orders. And with Russian discipline breaking apart, Ukraine had prepared the next move. Nothing like what most would expect. With the Russian convoy fractured but not yet destroyed, one question remained. Who would drive straight into the chaos before those armored crews regained command?
We don't yet have the details of exactly how this happened. The SBU has not revealed it. It has shown some photographs of what these containers looked like.
The answer came in a form so unusual it bordered on reckless. Motorcycles. Lightweight frames barely 145 kilograms, stripped down and prepped overnight, carrying 2 men per bike. One handled the handlebars with practiced balance, the other cradled anti-armor weapons slung across his back. They were not there to match the convoy in force. They were there to exploit panic before discipline could return. For an armored brigade expecting artillery and infantry, the sight of motorcycles cutting through the fog at breakneck speed was not just unexpected, it was disorienting. The obvious problem was terrain. The flat stretch offered no cover, nothing to shield men on bikes from autocannons perched on towers and armored turrets swiveling for targets. On paper, it looked suicidal to throw small vehicles against heavy guns, but speed and fragmentary movement changed that equation. Motorcycles cut directly across fields, shifted direction constantly, and never lingered more than a few seconds in one firing arc. What looked exposed on satellite maps translated on the ground to blurs too fast to track cleanly. It was not immunity, but unpredictability. And unpredictability kept them alive long enough to close into firing range. The southern wing struck first. At just under 300 meters from the front line, a 2-man bike skidded to a halt behind a wrecked carrier. The gunner swung an anti-tank guided missile launcher onto his shoulder. Within seconds, the crosshairs locked on a T-90M, the most prized tank in the convoy. The missile tore across the field and slammed into its turret. The blast sent the steel dome flying skyward in a violent arc, a tank valued in millions reduced in one fiery strike. Russian crews scrambled, but the message had already cut deep. Mobility and precision could outmatch weight and armor.
Of projectiles fired from the other's territory into the other's territory. And you rightly said that in the most recent one, it was 126 Ukrainian drones.
Were clearly loaded onto the trucks, and the way that the drones were concealed within these containers.
From the north, the second wing pressed closer still. A bike darted between bursts of heavy machine gun fire before planting itself just 23 meters from an armored vehicle's flank. The gunner shouldered a single-use RPG-26, fired at near point blank, and obliterated the target's side plating. It was close enough that the fireball rattled their own frame, but survivable because they had closed the gap before the cannon crew could pivot. These shots demonstrated not only raw bravery, but a tactical truth. Closing fast on armor removes its primary advantage. Meanwhile, the rear wing carved through the convoy's supply elements. Tandem charge rockets streaked into fuel trucks lined neatly along the dirt road. When they detonated, the resulting fireballs were massive enough to illuminate the entire column, rising higher than tree lines and lighting the night sky orange. Burning fuel spilled across the track, welding vehicles in place with walls of flame. Survivors trapped inside the convoy now faced not only immobilization, but suffocating smoke from their own supplies igniting around them.
Of commercial networks to deliver a weapon deep inside the territory of its enemy.
The rear was sealed. Encirclement followed naturally. Drones overhead streamed this chaos live, guiding bikes as they cut across open ground and repositioned to choke escape routes. In less than 15 minutes, wreckage burning at the front, sides, and backlocked Russian vehicles into a tightening kill zone. No line of retreat was left unblocked, and with drone feeds relaying every troop movement, Ukrainian forces could shift pressure to wherever resistance sparked.
More sort of rarely, the Russian drone attack was actually lesser numerically overnight than the Ukrainian drone attack.
Cut off, disoriented, and sandwiched between fire and encroaching ground teams, Russian cohesion collapsed before sunrise. And with the perimeter shrinking, the next stage would be even more precise.
Its victory in Ukraine is inevitable. This extraordinary operation shows that Ukraine is still in this fight.
Ukraine's strikes showed that weapons costing less than a soldier's helmet and two-man motorcycle teams weighing almost nothing could dismantle an armored offensive built for millions. Heavy steel, long seen as unstoppable on the battlefield, was cut apart by speed, precision, and improvisation.
A way that the Russian security services and military have been stunned by and were absolutely not ready for.
This should make us think carefully about modern conflict. Technology and adaptation now count more than sheer weight. What new tactics will emerge when advances in mobility and precision grow even sharper? If drones and motorcycles could erase lines of tanks before sunrise, what happens when tomorrow's weapons make armor obsolete even before it rolls into battle?